For centuries, it has stood as an immovable symbol of power, tradition, and regality. Buckingham Palace, an architectural titan shrouded in history, has watched over the heart of London, a silent sentinel to epochs of royal drama. Its grand gates, usually a beacon of continuity, now stand at the precipice of a bewildering shift. After a monumental, multi-year, multi-million-pound refurbishment, the world expected King Charles III to finally take his place within its hallowed halls. But behind the freshly painted facade, a different truth has emerged. The king, it seems, will not be moving in. This isn't merely a change of address, it's an unprecedented abandonment of the very heart of the monarchy. Why would a monarch, newly ascended to the throne, turn away from the residence synonymous with his reign? The official narrative whispers of practicality, of a desire for a more modern, efficient monarchy. But beneath these polite pronouncements, a more complex, perhaps even unsettling, story unfolds. This is a tale of ancient secrets, colossal costs, and hidden architectural nightmares, all converging to render the world's most gilded cage, paradoxically, too dangerous and impractical to call home. Buckingham Palace is more than just a building, it is the physical embodiment of a nation's heritage. Its sprawling 775 rooms, its 40 acres of gardens, its history stretching back to the 17th century as Buckingham House, and its transformation into a royal palace under Queen Victoria. It has been the setting for countless state banquets, investitures, and the famous balcony appearances that define British royal life. To step away from it is to disconnect from centuries of precedent, to challenge the very foundations of what it means to be a British monarch. The weight of this history is immense, making the king's decision all the more perplexing. By the early 21st century, the palace, despite its grandeur, was crumbling. Decades of deferred maintenance had taken their toll. Electrical wiring, much of it installed in the 1950s, was a fire hazard. Miles of lead pipes posed a health risk. The heating system was inefficient, and the building's infrastructure simply couldn't support modern demands. In 2016, with Queen Elizabeth II still on the throne, the royal household announced a colossal 10-year resurfacing program. It was billed as essential, a critical intervention to save the palace for future generations, costing a staggering sum that would shock even the most jaded taxpayer. The initial cost estimate for this monumental undertaking was revealed to be a breathtaking £369 million. A sum so vast, it immediately sparked public debate. Was it truly necessary? Could the monarchy justify such an expenditure at a time of austerity? Royal officials insisted it was an investment, a preservation of a national asset, funded by the taxpayer but ultimately ensuring the palace's viability for another half-century. It was a price, they argued, for the very continuation of royal tradition, a cost deemed unavoidable to secure the gilded cage's future. As the scaffolding went up and the work began, what started as a routine overhaul quickly turned into an archaeological dig of architectural misfortune. Beneath the opulent plasterwork and silk wall coverings, builders began to uncover not just outdated systems, but deeper, more insidious issues. The very fabric of the 300-year-old structure was revealing its age in ways nobody had fully anticipated. Cracks began to appear, not just in walls, but in the confidence surrounding the project's scope and its ultimate feasibility. The gilded veneer was starting to show its deep, deep fissures. Reports, initially dismissed as mere contractor chatter, spoke of more than just old wiring. They hinted at forgotten passages, disused shafts, and structural anomalies that defied modern building codes. Was the palace built upon earlier, less stable foundations? Were there sections of the building that had been altered and added to over centuries without proper records, creating a labyrinth of hidden weaknesses? The palace, once a symbol of solid British resolve, began to whisper of its own ancient, unstable secrets, making the task of renovation far more complex and hazardous than anyone had imagined. King Charles III, a monarch known for his keen interest in sustainable architecture and a more streamlined monarchy, found himself facing a profound dilemma. He understood the symbolic importance of Buckingham Palace. Yet, he also saw the monumental, perhaps even insurmountable, challenges of making it truly fit for purpose in the 21st century. The costs were spiraling, the delays mounting, and the structural integrity concerns were not easily dismissed. He inherited not just a crown, but a building that was becoming a bottomless pit of expenditure and a logistical nightmare. The initial £369 million budget, once deemed extravagant, quickly became a baseline. As more layers of history were peeled back, new problems emerged, each demanding additional funds and further delays. Dry rot, asbestos, unexpected structural shifts, the list grew longer. This wasn't just about replacing old pipes, it was about reimagining the very foundations of a centuries-old structure, while preserving its historical significance. The costs threatened to exceed not just the original estimate, but the very patience of a nation struggling with its own economic challenges. The palace itself, it turns out, was a patchwork of historical additions and alterations, never designed as a single cohesive unit for modern residential use. Different sections settled at different rates, leading to stress fractures and uneven floors. Some areas, once servants' quarters or obscure storerooms, had been built with far less structural integrity than the grand state rooms. The refurbishment had to contend with these inherent design flaws, trying to unify a building that was, in essence, several smaller, distinct structures bolted together over centuries. It was a Frankenstein's monster of architecture. One of the most concerning revelations was the scale of the fire risk. The antiquated wiring, dating back to post-WWII, wasn't just old, it was a labyrinthine fire trap, exacerbated by vast quantities of combustible materials hidden within walls and ceilings over centuries. The refurbishment aimed to address this, but the sheer volume of material, combined with the palace's complex layout, made comprehensive mitigation a daunting, almost impossible task without gutting the entire structure. The threat of a devastating fire, not dissimilar to Windsor Castle's blaze in 1992, loomed large, a silent, flickering warning. Beyond fire, the palace's ancient design presented formidable modern security challenges. Its sprawling footprint, numerous entrances, and complex internal layout made it difficult to secure comprehensively against contemporary threats without turning it into a fortress akin to a maximum security prison. The very architecture designed for openness and grandeur in a bygone era now became its greatest vulnerability. Updating it to meet modern royal protection standards proved incredibly complex and, again, astronomically expensive, creating a constant tension between history and necessity. Even with the new systems, the sheer scale of Buckingham Palace makes it inherently expensive to run and maintain. Heating, lighting, staffing, and constant upkeep for hundreds of rooms remain an enormous financial burden. King Charles, known for his more frugal and environmentally conscious approach, likely recognized that maintaining such a colossal, energy-hungry edifice as a primary residence was not only fiscally irresponsible in the modern era but also sent the wrong message to the public. The gilded cage, even refurbished, demanded a cost of living that was no longer justifiable. Beyond the structural and financial, there's a deeply human aspect to this decision. For a monarch, even one accustomed to grandeur, living in a museum-like building with 775 rooms, constantly open to tourists and staff, might feel less like a home and more like an exhibition. Queen Elizabeth II famously preferred the cozier, more private feel of Windsor Castle for much of her later reign. King Charles, with his desire for a more intimate, perhaps less public, domestic life, might simply find the sheer scale of Buckingham Palace overwhelming and alienating for daily living. So, the King's decision to maintain Clarence House as his London base, and Windsor Castle as his primary country residence, is not merely a personal preference. It's a strategic retreat, a pragmatic concession to the realities uncovered by the refurbishment. Clarence House offers a more manageable, private, and less imposing royal base in the capital, while Windsor Castle provides the grandeur and historical weight without the same scale of logistical and financial burden as Buckingham Palace. It's a move to consolidate resources and focus the monarchy's public face on where it can be most effective. Buckingham Palace will not be abandoned entirely. It will continue its vital role as the administrative headquarters of the monarchy, a venue for grand state events, investitures, and the annual summer opening to tourists. Its role shifts from a personal residence to a grand ceremonial and working palace. This allows for public access and reduces the pressure on the king to constantly reside within its demanding confines. The focus moves from intimate living to public duty, ensuring the palace remains a central, albeit reimagined, pillar of the royal institution. This decision reflects a growing trend towards a more modern, streamlined, and arguably more realistic monarchy. One that acknowledges the immense costs and logistical challenges of maintaining historical properties, while still preserving their essence and public function. King Charles III is not just a monarch inheriting a throne, he's inheriting an institution that must adapt to the 21st century. His choice, born from the revelations of a colossal refurbishment, signals a pragmatic shift, prioritizing function and sustainability over a rigid adherence to residential tradition. The saga of Buckingham Palace and King Charles III is far from over. The refurbishment project itself continues, with its ongoing discoveries and challenges. What other secrets will the ancient walls reveal? How will the public react to a king who lives away from the traditional seat of power? This story, peeled back layer by layer, exposes the complex tension between the weight of history and the relentless march of modern reality. The gilded cage has shown its true colors, beautiful, iconic, but also old, fragile, and demanding an almost impossible cost for true residency. As the final scaffolding descends and the palace stands gleaming, a new chapter begins for the British monarchy. One where its most iconic symbol, while still central, ceases to be the monarch's home. King Charles III's decision, rooted in the deep complexities unearthed by a multi-million-pound renovation, offers a glimpse into the future of royalty, a balancing act between cherished tradition and necessary evolution. It's a reminder that even the most enduring institutions must sometimes make the most difficult choices to survive, thriving not by residing in the past, but by embracing a practical, if unexpected, future.